All right, let's start with the hard truth. Most learning doesn't fail by accident. It fails because it's designed in a way that guarantees forgetting. And every time learning fades is not just information that is lost, it's credibility, trust, and quite the belief that training doesn't really work. That's a much bigger cost than we usually admit. Now, there are 5 common design decisions that quietly push learning out of memory. And chances are we have used at least a few of them without realizing it. But by the end of this episode, I'll show you what exactly those decisions are and give you a simple checklist you can use in order for you to design learning that actually sticks. First, we need to understand why forgetting is so easy. Learners forget weeks later. That doesn't mean that they weren't engaged, and it doesn't mean the session wasn't good. For more than a century, learning science has shown us something uncomfortable. Forgetting is the brain's default setting. As early as 1885, Hermann Ebbinghaus demonstrated that memory decays rapidly unless learning is deliberately reinforcing it. So when learning disappears, the real question isn't why did they forget? It's why did we expect them not to? So as we mentioned, there are 5 reasons learning fades. And once you see them, you will start spotting them everywhere in L&D design. So let's start with the most common one. Information dumping. When everything is labeled important, the brain treats nothing as important. Working memory has a strict limit, and it can only actively process a small amount of information at any given moment. When we overload it, dense slides, long explanations, multiple frameworks back to back, the brain doesn't selectively store information in this moment. It shuts down encoding. That's why learners often say, well, I understood it at the time, but I don't remember it now. Understanding happened, but memory information didn't. Next, effort-free learning. When learning feels easy, the brain assumes it's disposable. Research on desirable difficulty shows that effort signals important. Struggle when it's purposeful, and it tells the brain what matters. And here's the counterintuitive truth. In learning, comfort is often the enemy of memory. When answers are handed over too quickly, the brain quietly decides, well, I don't need to keep this. I can always get it again. That's why smooth, comfortable learning often disappears the fastest. Next, emotionless design. The brain doesn't remember neutral information well. Emotion isn't decoration, it's a filter. Information that feels relevant, risky, or meaningful is flagged as worth keeping. Information that feels generic is treated like background noise. That's why stories outlast slides. It's also why mistakes are remembered longer than models. Most learning answers what and how, but never answers why this matters to me. The next mistake is where even well-designed programs completely collapse, and that is no retrieval. Exposure is not memory. Memory strengthens when learners retrieve information and when they recall it, explain it, or apply it. If learners never retrieve what they have learned, forgetting is guaranteed. Recognition feels like knowing, but the brain knows the difference. Next, no application trigger. If learning isn't needed, the brain lets it go. From the brain's perspective, unused information is insufficient storage. Training without clear path to application becomes information exposure, not capability building. When you step back, the pattern is clear. Learning fades when it's too dense to process, too easy to forget, too neutral to matter, never retrieved, never used. Forgetting isn't random at this stage, it's designed. So here's the checklist I use to pressure test any learning design. I can call it the anti-forgetting checklist. Before finalizing a program, ask yourself the following. Can the brain realistically process this? One idea per segment beats covering everything. Where does the learner have to think, not just listen? Effort strengthens memory. Why should this matter emotionally or professionally? No relevance, no retention. Where do learners have to retrieve this later? If retrieval never happens, memory won't form. How will this be used in the real world? If learning isn't needed, it won't be kept. If you can't answer one of those questions, well, forgetting is already built in. So forgetting doesn't happen because learners didn't care. It happened because the design never gave the brain the reasons to remember. When learning is designed with the brain in mind, retention stops being unpredictable and it becomes something you can engineer. So, before the next learning program, run your design through the anti-forgetting checklist. Check which one of the 5 questions are currently ignored, and that's exactly where forgetting will happen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.